Hudepohl, King of Bowling, next.
For the past 2 weeks, Jerry Eckel has been crowned Hudepohl's King of TV Bowling. We're here to see if he can win it for week number 3, along with Bo Hudepohl and David Newrath. I'm J.D. Hayworth. And Bo, a lovely chapeau today and an interesting situation here in the opening match.
That's for sure. We have 2 new faces to our King qualifiers, first year trying out and making the show so early in the season.
So a couple of newcomers. We'll have Paul Danforth and Gary Towe going at it, David Newrath.
The left side's going to see a lot of action today. In addition to these 2 players, our King, obviously, the only right-hander will be in our second match. But we're going to see some good bowling, contrasting styles, and we'll tell you all about it.
All right, we'll be back to take a look at the 2 principal combatants in our opening match and have a lot more for you as we kick off week 3 of Hudepohl's King of TV Bowling.
Hudepohl, King of Bowling. Brought to you by the Hudepohl Brewing Company, America's great small brewery.
Welcome back. And we get started by taking a look at the form of Paul Danforth. David Newrath.
Starts the ball out low, goes into a high backswing and a high leg kick. Not really traditional, but it works for him, so we're going to watch, see how consistent he can be. Gets good roll on the ball.
And here comes Gary Towe.
Accuracy is his forte. The lower controlled position, gets through the ball, positions the ball at about the 8th board, maybe 9, and we see it here firmly in the pocket.
And we're ready to get started, and opening things up is Paul Danforth.
Paul is choosing to throw a harder, it's still a urethane ball, but a harder shell ball to get the ball down about the 40 or 50 foot range and then let it do its damage.
Vaporizes them in the opening frame, and that sets the stage for Gary Towe.
We have left against left in our first match, too, I just noticed.
Battle o' the Southpaws.
They're going to be playing 2 contrasting lines today, and we'll see if we can pick it up on his next shot. He is going to be right around the 9th or 10th board, right in that area, a little straighter. Paul Danforth, on the other hand, is going to be out around that 4th or 3rd board area, swinging the ball out. There you see him leaving the 9 pin.
Search and destroy for Gary Towe as he picks up the spare in the opening frame, and now he'll move over to frame number 2. Towe didn't start bowling until he was 27 years of age. He's 40 right now, and he told me before the telecast that he's the distant cousin of Monty Towe, one of the first diminutive guards to play major college basketball. Let's see how Gary Towe is here in frame number 2.
The ball went over the 11th board. We told you he was playing 9. In retrospect, the ball did go high. Get him a break tripping out the 6 pin. Nice way to start the game.
You know, Paul Danforth is celebrating an anniversary of sorts today. This is his 1-year anniversary being in Cincinnati from Southern California.
Well, let's see how the Californian turned Cincinnati does here. Leaving that 7, David.
Going out even wider than we anticipated on that ball, changing the angle of entry in and not quite getting that solid strike that he created in the first frame. We're going to watch a good shot of him here in the 3rd frame. We'll watch the trajectory of his ball, and hopefully we'll see one of those power strikes as he shoots his spare. 7 pin is in the bag.
You know, I wanted to mention again, if you just turn your TVs on, 11:30, our youth game does air. In a couple weeks, we will have the Queen bowling, the ladies. And next Saturday and Sunday are the last weeks that the kids can try to qualify at Stones Lanes. We are qualifying today at Saniville Lanes.
90-minute format this year as we celebrate silver anniversary of local bowling on Cincinnati television.
That's the line we tried to talk about, JD. Let's take a look at it here on the replay. This ball is going to go down on the fourth arrow. Now, the fourth board go out to about the second. Now, watch it just roll off like an absolute tank on the back end. 1-2 pocket, a little bit of deflection. There's a 5-pin center your screen and a 2-pin taking out the 7.
Here's Gary Towe with some trouble, David.
Two contrasting styles. We mentioned he's playing in further. Danforth is playing out. Danforth is playing the correct area today to generate that roll and hook and therefore the hitting power on the back end. He is in probably a weaker hitting area. So far we're looking at a tie ball game, but unless he decides to make a move here, he's going to be in trouble. You saw him picking up the 3-5 there.
Gary Towe is married, has 4 children, and his wife also bowls. Family that plays together stays together. Some sort of slogan comes to mind there, David, but it escapes me here in these early hours on Sunday.
There you see the contrasting style. This ball, as we take a look at it here on the replay, will cross the arrows at right about the 9th board. Now watch the deflection. This ball is going to jump to the left-hand side of your screen. Right there, you see it just getting the 5-pin and therefore not allowing the 4 to do its job and take the 7 out. He needs to create a harder hitting ball.
That pesky 7 remains not for long. Riding the channel right on the edge, David.
You can see him smiling there. He wasn't too sure about it either.
And that sets the stage for our Californian turned Cincinnatian, Paul Danforth.
You know, because of our new format in qualifying on Saturdays, Paul has already bowled 1 game in order to be on television. There was a roll-off earlier, Dave Callery, and Paul went at it, and Paul emerged the winner with a 267 mid-game.
Paul shows you why there, David, as he's able to fill up the frame.
Absolutely phenomenal. Let's see if we can watch. Now, everybody, keep your eyes on the head pin, center your screen. It's going to go to the right-hand side. Take the 3-pin to the wall. Now, watch this 3-pin come off the wall. You see it? Even though everything's gone, if it wouldn't have been, it would.
That was a scout.
And if you follow that's right, and if you follow that, you're in trouble.
If it then it would. Yes, the expert analysis of David Neurath as that pesky 7 remains here for Paul Danforth, and you can see he is not pleased with the presence of the 7-pin.
Bo, would you say Paul's one of our more emotional players out here?
Well, you know, you have to be intense in order to be a winner most of the time in any sport.
Even if you're outwardly calm, you better believe inside you want to win bad.
And he picks off that pesky 7 there. And you see his smile. He enjoys it. Interesting to see the interaction between these two fellows who, with all that's riding on this match, still are having fun. See them exchanging words and handshakes there.
That's not normal for 2 new faces to be smiling in between shots.
We're looking at it again. Gary is going to have to make that line adjustment and move out into the area which is going to allow the ball to roll off harder. He's still holding his own, as we see there. It's only an 11-pin deficit, which is barely a mark, but he's going to have to move into the area where his ball will finish. Shooting the 3-pin.
Don't you think it's really difficult to make that fast of an adjustment on the show? You only have X amount of frames to fill.
Well, that's right. That's right. Our players do get several shadow balls before we go on the air, and it's that time when they should be figuring out these sort of moves, because once the lights come on and those little red eyes be looking at you, it's tough to make the changes.
Well, let's see what Gary does in the presence of the 5 monster. He's able to respond right there. Apparently he made the aforementioned adjustment, David.
We always replay the good ones. Let's replay a bad one. This ball right through the heart, taking the head pin straight back, sending the 2 and a 3 out, just like 2 end-arounds. It's what we call a cave-in, and we love them.
A Neanderthal, if you will.
Absolutely phenomenal. Our own John Gant was also on yesterday on the national telecast, and he did a startling job once again to represent Cincinnati. We have turned out some classy players, haven't we, Bo?
You know, I think the King of Bowling has really helped to develop some of those guys that are out there, because most of them that are on the tour from Cincinnati started right here.
Absolutely. John Gant a few years ago, and now it's Paul Danforth making his and leaving the 10.
Leaving the 10 pin is right. The mixing ball a little late on the break. Could have gotten a break and tapped it out, but not to be right now. The game is still going to be about 12 pins.
So we have a good, close match in our opener. Great to have you along for week 3 on the Hudepohl King of Bowling.
I want to mention, we do already know 2 of our potential qualifiers for next week. Mike Mybers rolled a 772 yesterday at La Sanaville, and Gary Grissinger a 744, so we will see them.
And, of course, the qualifying continues as now, David Neurath, we take a gander at the figures on the board.
11 pins is the deficit. This man has to make them up, and he's not going to do it unless he moves into an area where he can create some swing. Right there, leaving the difficult left-handed bucket, or the 3, 5, 6, 9. 3, 5, 6, and 9. What's something else about that? Let's see. 3, 5, 6.
It's a phone number.
I don't know. It's a tough spare anyway.
But he gets it. So give Gary Towe some credit coming back to get that tough spare.
You know, we've had some really nice scores rolled in our qualifiers this year, and we have to commend a young man, Nick Vogelsang, for he's only been bowling. This is his first year. In fact, the first shift, first week, lane 1, first delivery or first game, he rolled 300 this year. Yesterday, he rolled his second 300 already. What?
If somebody would roll the 300 on television, of course, it'd be a new car for him.
We've got one in the parking lot. We have a beautiful 1987 Ford Tempo with front-wheel drive. Compliments of West Hills Ford and our friend Al Schiller, Tom Schiller.
Tom, as we were out there yesterday, you'll be seeing one of our tips later in the year that we taped out there as you watch the ball trickle off into the channel, leaving the 4-7 for an open frame. That changed the whole complexion of the game. But anyway, Tom was exceptionally good to us out there, and I was looking at this beautiful Mustang 5-liter convertible. Oh, my wife said I look too single in it, though, so I guess we can't get that one.
Well, our single bowler today, Paul Danforth, able to come through and vaporize them.
Tenacious player. His opponent's down. What's he going to do? He's going to throw the best ball. 1-2 pocket, no deflection, a ton of drive, going through 10 pins in the pit. Every pin doing its job, J.D.
Good to see none of them are unemployed, David.
Wants to put a few of them in a rest home, I think, the way he's throwing the ball. Unbelievable. We throw the solid 7 on the right side. We're going to see a solid 10. Now, the head pin center screen is going to go straight back. 3 pins. Second one to the right is going to go to the wall right there. Now, look at it. It's going to miss the 10 pin by a fraction of an inch, J.D.
One of the things that can happen in a sport that involves so many variables.
Covering his 10 pin is going to make it very difficult at this point for Gary to retrieve this match, but he is not out of it yet. If he could strike out in the 9th and 10th frames, it would force Paul Danforth to win, but he's got to have this one.
And he gets it. So Gary Towe responds to the pressure, David.
You know, sitting in our audience today, if you look at the center of your screen, is our new proprietors, fairly new, Rick Provisor from here at Brentwood, and Steve Swillinger sitting off to the right a little bit.
And, of course, the center of your screen, Gary Towe, trying to come back here in the match against Paul Danforth.
It's all over if this isn't a strike.
It's all over.
J.D.
Now, let's take a look at it. The figures tell the tale, David.
Well, even if he would spare and strike out here, that would give him 184. Paul, on the other hand, without throwing a ball, has 179. So he would have to get 5 on a total of two shots, and I think that's reasonable to assume he could do that.
Towe finishes up with a spare there in that frame.
know, I mentioned before that the ladies are going to be on TV in a couple weeks. Ann Tubbs, right now, the ladies do qualify, and Ann Tubbs is right now leading the ladies at Sanibel. This is the second time this year she did it. She was our queen at Western.
Ann is throwing the ball. I had the opportunity to cross with her at Princeton, I believe, Bo, and she is throwing the ball as well as I've ever seen it.
She's very competitive.
You're looking at your winner, assuming he can get 5 pins in the next 2 deliveries, J.D.
Let's see what he does here. 7 stays up. He's not real pleased with that, but not that bummed out, knowing how mathematically it looks right now.
That's right. The name of the game is win. If it's 140 and you win, that's just fine. Commendable game.
Gary Towe finished up with a 184 total. So he was able to come up with a strike his final frame. And let's see what Mr. Danforth can do. Search and destroy on the 7th pin.
You better believe he's practiced that one a few times.
And in fact, his final frame, really, I guess, a practice situation as he prepares to move along, David.
That's a good point, J.D. Right now, if he wanted to try something special or different, this would be a perfect place to do it.
Well, isn't that special? That was special, as he fills it up and moves right along. We'll take a look at the tally board and tell you that Mr. Danforth wins match 1. We'll be back right after this from the Better Beers of Hudepohl.